and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 15 Minutes in WACSI, a dedicated program that gives voice to civil society actors. It enables you and I to share our perspectives on what we are doing and how we are contributing to ensure that civil society, West Africa, is a better place. This episode is dedicated to a colleague from the West Africa Civil Society Institute who will be telling us what he's doing in Cote d'Ivoire. Apparently, the organization, a team from the West Africa Civil Society Institute, are currently in Cote d'Ivoire for some work. This episode will give us an insight into what they've been doing and what are some of the lessons they have learned from their visit to Cote d'Ivoire. And of course, you, a partner, a trusted partner of the West Africa Civil Society Institute, can gain some insights on opportunities that may exist for you to collaborate with them or collaborate with the partners in the country. Good afternoon and welcome to the set, Mr. Franck Sombo.
Good afternoon, Jim.
Can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you. My name is Franck Sombo. I'm an Ivorian based in Ghana for the purpose of work. I work at WACSI, the West Africa Civil Society Institute, as the Monitoring, Evaluation and Learning Head. Thank you very much.
I like the way you introduce yourself. You said based in Ghana for work. With COVID nowadays, people have to make that precision.
Exactly.
Because COVID is affording us the opportunity to work from anywhere across the world. But tell us, you are back home. How do you feel being at home?
Very fantastic.
Very fantastic.
Yeah.
And what brought you to Cote d'Ivoire?
I've been aching to be here for a while ago, and things have not been favorable because of the COVID situation, and I'm very happy to be back home. And yet again, coming for professional reasons, and I'm here with a team of WACSI staff members, supported with a local resource person, to conduct on-site coaching visits to 6 implementing organizations under a capacity strengthening program sponsored by CEPF, the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund.
Lovely. And can you tell us a little bit about this program? Because you are here for coaching sessions to how many organizations, and how did you come about to this stage that you are at a coaching period for this organization?
As you are aware, WACSI is a capacity development institution that seeks to engage with partners to support society organizations across the region. One of the engagement that we had since 2020 was formalizing an engagement with CEPF. That's a partner focusing particularly in biodiversity and climate change, climate resilience, and maintaining the ecosystem across the globe. And so they have partners in certain countries that they are targeting and those that they are also working with. And the agreement was to provide technical support to strengthen implementing organizations within the region. So we started with different components of the capacity strengthening program, including learning needs assessments, virtual training sessions, physical training sessions, follow-on supports through mentoring and follow-up engagement to check on update and progress with their action plan implementation. And now we are coming back on site, this time around to visit each and every organization to understand their peculiar context and see how much more support they need to practicalize the knowledge and skills they have received.
That sounds quite deep and elaborate in terms of a program, and I'm quite curious, and I'm sure many of our listeners would really want to know, from your visit to these organizations across the country, what are some of those resounding changes that they shared with you, that you observed in, the historic of these organizations? I'm tempted to try to mix some French and English, given that I'm in a French-speaking country.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. So, right from the top of it, we can say at least more than half of these organizations out of 6, more than 50%, that's at least around 4, have been able to attract more partners and secure more funding, right from the top of it. And so coming down to operational changes, we can mention improvement in terms of coordination delegation of duties and teamwork within the organizations. Many organizations had leaders or officers who were kind of accumulating various responsibilities or accumulating tasks, but now they have learned to work with colleagues and to trust ability of other people to make input to the team. We've also noticed changes in terms of proposal writing, right? And also in terms of governance systems, even though there's a lot more to be done, but there is a lot more awareness when it comes to governance structures and systems, which I'm sure we'll come back to it in our conversation.
I am particularly keen on governance because from my understanding, the setup of civil society organizations from the administrative, so the way government advises organizations to set up themselves, sometimes does not facilitate fluidity. So when you talk about changes in terms of governance, what change concretely did you observe in some of these organizations?
Thank you very much. You've rightly said the law in Cote d'Ivoire, that is the policy framework that regulates the creation of society organization in Cote d'Ivoire, does not give obligation to society organization to have a constituted board in that sense. So it's a very classical way of constituting their makeup. So they have mainly a president, and then they have treasurers, and they have a secretary and founding members, and then the rest is open to maybe just other members who can adhere to the organization. And so you do not have also a specific law that distinguishes, for instance, NGOs to community-based organizations, to associations, to trade unions, and other type of organizations. So you have, there are improvements and there are conversations around kind of bridging those gaps, but for the moment, that's one of the major challenges when it comes to the governance structure. So to answer your question, in terms of improvement, organizations at least have realized the need to put systems in place that ensure more transparency and accountability. So the most fundamental element is to have accountability systems and accountability mechanisms. Having organs or components of the team that has to do with implementation, planning, designing, implementing activities, and other organs or components that have to do with providing control, and a sounding board to the implementers. So at least there are some checks and balances within the organization, and these are some of the adaptations that they are trying to implement within the organization in one way or the other.
That is quite formidable, and congratulations to your team at WACSI for such formidable support that has led to this. I am particularly curious, a program that started in 2020 and rolled over to 2021. We all know what 2020 brought to the world, and how did that affect this program? And generally speaking, what were some of the challenges that your team encountered in the effort to ensure that these organizations in Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, and Guinea were supported smoothly?
COVID-19 disrupted the way organizations work across the globe, and West Africa was not spared by the effect of the pandemic. Thankfully, we were very proactive, and we also had partners that were very responsive to the changing nature of work. So we had to engage with a number of partners, including CPF, and we had to negotiate and discuss with them about the mode of delivery of the program. So we had to adapt implementation from a purely physical in-person delivery mode to a hybrid model that accommodated both virtual delivery of the training, which was not done before, and then also on-site implementation of the training before we even come for the coaching session. And so that was quite new for many organizations and many partners, and we really appreciate the flexibility of CPF. And we also have to congratulate ourselves because it was a very important moment in how we define our operations and how we deliver our services. It was also new for us, and it was one of the the main moment for us in redefining and redesigning our ways of working, and that worked successfully. It required a little bit more adaptation from the part of the partners that were at the receiving end of the program, but they were also comprehensive of understanding, and they were able to buy into it. But the on-site coaching, I must say, really made the difference, because visiting the organization and getting a first-hand touch of their daily reality and having that direct conversation with them has completely turned how they perceive the support and how we also understand their situations.
I really feel very elated having this conversation with you, and I'm sure our viewers would actually be very pleased to have a better understanding of how you grappled with this challenge, but most importantly, you surmounted this particular challenge. When I read the reports on the website of the West African Civil Society Institute, especially training reports, often the conclusion or recommendations often come up with there is need for further training, further capacity building. In this process, particularly after visiting these organizations in the country, did you identify other areas where these organizations may or certainly need more support, in enabling them to be more performant in their work?
Thank you. It's noteworthy to mention that the program came with very specific and very practical tools. Right from the onset of the virtual training, there were resources that were provided as a guidance for organizations to practicalize what they have learned, and that include, for instance, a charter for the boards, and that includes templates for strategic plans, for instance, that includes financial management templates, monitoring and evaluation resources and frameworks, and communication guidelines. And all those were meant to give a very hands-on way of organizations for them to put into practice what they learned. And we also provided in-country support through engagement of country-based resource persons. So even though we were doing the virtual follow-up, we had resource persons that were there in the countries to work with each organization, including the 6 organizations in Cote d'Ivoire, and that was very instrumental in ensuring that the knowledge and skills that not remain at a theoretical level, and there is not a break up in the process until we have another touch point from WACSI. And so we received a lot of positive reports in the ways that has helped organizations to hold on to the process. And so talking about the tools and the implementation, many organizations, at least 80% or majority of these organizations have already begun work on their strategic plan. 90% of the time that we have engaged with them, they already have a draft of the strategic plan, and they are about to submit it to their General Assembly and maybe their board or their decision-making body. So that's already a very good step. Or most of them also are working on a procedures manual which they did not have, which will also add to their strengths. And just a few examples for you to understand what we mean by some of those changes. But now the question about the challenges they are facing. So for instance, when it comes to the board governance, and to start from there, it requires a lot of awareness internally on the importance of putting together those structures and those systems to ensure that there are checks and balances, and that require very sometimes long-term attitudinal changes, and institutional changes at individual and then organizational level. So these are processes that are ongoing. Some have already started, and others are also picking up pending approval from their General Assembly. Then you also have some challenges around documentation. Documentation is not strongly maintained in the organizations. You also have challenges around communication. So society organizations do a lot of work, very strong and beautiful work, but the documentation, the communication and the visibility is something that is not strong enough or is lacking, and I think that could be an area for further support or guidance because they have a lot of resources. Another area will be monitoring and evaluation. Looking at the different components of the program that have been delivered, you will definitely have different stages of adoption. across board. So you have organizations that are far advanced in some areas than others. Out of at least 4 blocks of modules that were delivered, and some are stronger in governance, some are stronger in financial management, others in project management and monitoring and evaluation, and others in communication and policy advocacy. So you may not expect that they will have all the same level, but at least these are some of the key areas where they need very strong support and maybe a continuous engagement to really stand back on their feet.
That is quite interesting, and I'm sure viewers, if you are a partner or working with partners in any of the West African countries, whether you are in Nigeria or from Nigeria or working with partners in Nigeria, whether you're in Canada, in the Americas, in Europe, and you have partners in West Africa who may be having these challenges, I think this is a clarion call from the West Africa Civil Society Institute to invite you to collaborate with them, to see how you can, diagnose more of such issues and work with these organizations to respond to them. But I'll move to something else. I understand WACSI has been evolving in its practice, in providing capacity development support to organizations, and you often brand yourself as the learning organization. So what are some of those key lessons that the Institute has learned, in the process of supporting these organizations during a tumultuous period?
Very good. I like the last part that you added, because there are some generic lessons, and then there are some aspects that are also peculiar to the COVID situation. So I can say from what we have observed as a team that, for instance, ownership is very important for any capacity development initiative. We need to ensure that there is ownership, commitment, and buy-in from the onset of the process. And I think that was well managed in this particular program, as in other programs, and that need to continue and to be maintained. I'm sure we can also improve on it, but it's very essential because there's so much you can do as a capacity development institution, but they need to be complementarity in participation, ownership from the side of those who receive the program. There's also the need to, we have also learned that not all organizations are the same. We have sometimes a tendency to believe that civil society organizations, the moment you implement a program, they must all be able to catch up, and buy into the content. But then we had to face the straight reality that organizations that work within grassroots settings will not have the same challenges and same expectations as those working at the national level, or maybe on the international scene, or those within the urban and peri-urban areas. So yes, we have that awareness, and we try to look to consider that in implementing our program. And I think we should do more when it comes to even designing the program, right from the design of the program, the implementation, and then the planning and the implementation, and the support that we provide. We have to ensure that we are able to look at those peculiarities, and organizations are not lumped together, or that they are not addressed in the same way. And that's one key lesson that we have learned. We have also learned that accountability is very key and is very essential. And we've noticed that those who have been able to apply some of the basic principles in terms of accountability and transparency are among the top when it comes to attracting partner support and funding. And so we want to encourage those kind of practices so that organizations will be able to adopt those practices. And we've also learned that technology plays a very significant role. We are in a dispensation where we cannot do away with digital resources to change the ways that we work and to give a new face to the developmental sector. So civil society organizations in West Africa, whether those delivering the program or those receiving the programs, need to be adept at using technology to be able to fast track their work. Some day-to-day tools like Windows applications or Microsoft Office, sometimes you realize that organizations have some challenges, in using them, in documenting their work, in putting together some templates for reporting, in capturing and tracking progress of their work, you know, and sometimes it makes the work a bit difficult. I'm very happy that right from the beginning we're able to provide them some training on how to use the tool to even benefit from the virtual training. So we had to do some pre-training session for them to flow with the tools that will be used for the training. And then on-site also, apart from the core topics that I have mentioned in the program itself, there was a technology support component that enabled organizations to receive support in branding themselves through the design and development of website. So each of those organizations have been provided a website when there is a need. So at least 5 of the 6 expressed the need and they received support for a new website, brandly developed and put together by the WACSI team with the sponsorship of CEPF, and we was also provided hands-on technology support and provision of technology tools and applications to help them manage their day-to-day work. And this is a very big part of the satisfaction that we are drawing from all this process.
Congratulations! This is. It sounds like a huge chunk of achievements, and really proud of the great work that the team is doing. And just to thank you once again for watching this program. And if you have a partner or you are an organization that has a peculiar situation, you know, that you need support in, the West Africa Civil Society Institute is ready to accompany you to address these challenges. Just drop them an email on info@wacsi.org. You can see the email written at the bottom of the video, and you can send them an email, and of course the team will respond to you speedily. At this juncture, Mr. Franck Sombo, thank you very much for talking to the communications team of the West Africa Civil Society Institute, and I hope to have you on set again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. My pleasure.